the blue side, they won a coin toss yesterday. They will remove LeBlanc and Desire, Ari and Lucian taken away by T1.
Something we saw a lot of yesterday from T1 was this priority on the Xayah. We saw G2 drafting a lot of dive compositions that would try and force engages, force team fights, and the Xayah pick was something that T1 was happy to pick for Gumayusi and gave him a lot of safety, or also a lot of agency in lane. By removing the Renata as well, RNG is heavily suggesting they're looking at something along the lines of a Galio comp once again.
I was so interested to see if we were going to get the first pick Gwen, because both these guys are comfortable to play GP into Gwen or Gwen into GP. Bin especially is also very happy to bring out things like the Jax as an additional answer. And I think a lot of this series may pivot on this top lane matchup, because Gwen has been such a high-performing champion at MSI. It has been by far the most played of the top laners, and it has been absolutely dominating. So if you can come out of the gate with a strong answer to it, and it's going to be Jayce as that answer. So if Zeus can actually win this matchup, it can really shift priorities and start to change what pick and ban looks like.
A very volatile top lane matchup for sure. Oh, yeah. I expect to see junglers making their way towards that side of the map. Oh. One of the big champions that we've been seeing rise in popularity as the tournament has gone on has been this Nocturne. Nocturne paired alongside things like the Galio have been very common. Nocturne alongside Twisted Fate. The ability to attack side lanes, the ability to find picks and kind of work together with your mid laner is a very effective dive comp execution that many teams are find a lot of success with.
And a big thing for T1 as well is they haven't played either of these champions for a long time. No Nocturne so far in the tournament for Oner. Zeus played Jayce once in the group stage versus Red Canids, I think. So T1 bringing a lot of new things to this draft already.
What you'll notice here is that they can lock in the Galio, because if they go for the Tristana, then they're going to be full AD. Yep. They've already got the Jayce, they've already got the Nocturne, so RNG very quickly realizing, we see our window, you're not going to bring that Tristana out like you did yesterday.
And it'll be interesting, I mean, do they go for it anyway? You still could try to look for it. Instead, it's actually going to be an Azir, something we haven't really been seeing whatsoever at the tournament. But some powerful disengage there, the ability to actually sweep back what is 3 melee champions that have already been drafted here by RNG. And Viego's such an interesting one to me, because Viego has been struggling at MSI, but not for these two junglers in particular. You know, it's 11 and 26 at MSI overall, but Wei is 4-1 on the pick. You know, without Wei and Oner, this champion is like a 15% win rate.
And already, like, as you say, the Viego obviously a very interesting pick, but T1, these 3 picks are so surprising to me. Not because I don't think these guys can play the champions, but as I said, Zeus has 1 Jayce game, Oner has no Nocturne games at MSI, and Faker has no Azir games. We haven't seen Azir the entire tournament. T1 obviously well prepared for today.
Well, one thing I will say is that often when you think of certain players, you think of certain champions. And Faker, with his very long tenure, does have quite a few champions to his name. Azir is one of them. It is a champion that he can often default to, often rely on when the chips are down. And it's something that he has very consistent success on. The question is, does it make sense in this composition? You've got a Nocturne that wants to dive into the backline. You've got a Jayce that wants to leverage the poke. You've got Azir, who is both disengaged, does have long-range poke, also good scaling. Right now, T1's composition is a little bit all over the place, whereas RNG has a very dedicated and clear-cut plan.
And we'll see if they can actually have some picks here to pull it all together, right? Because I agree with you. Sometimes you can kind of get trapped. When you're looking for a denial pick, you're saying, okay, if they want to go Galio, we don't want them to have the Nocturne. But if you allow that to really kind of disrupt what you're trying to build with your own 5v5, that can sometimes be problematic. You can destroy your own composition with that. So we'll see if they can have some picks to pull together.
If I'm counting this correctly, that is 6 AD carry bans that have been removed from the pool, which means that
super interesting.
We're going to be going very deep. Aphelios is things that we're looking at right now. Oh, the Caitlyn.
Oh, do we get like a Caitlyn Lux or something?
It was fabled coming into the tournament. It was something that I was speaking with Cadril about extensively. And in the LCK, this was like pick ban. This was a champion that you could not afford to give T1. And now they're finally going to be bringing it out. Range is very clearly the identity of T1's composition.
6 games, 6 wins for Gumayusi on the Caitlyn this year.
And and generally when we see Caitlyn, we see it paired with range supports, right? So now RNG have to decide, what do they actually want to go to? Yes, there are some things like the Aphelios, but the laning phase is definitely weaker. It can actually, I think, suffer into things like that Caitlyn Lux potentially. If you want to go for something like Tristana, that really would suffer. So I think your options become more limited, because T1 has heavily focused ADs in the pick ban. RNG did as well. And potentially with the last pick support, T1 is going for that 2v2 dominance. You know, they have been incredibly strong. And when you think to how RNG has had success, you know, not just here, but also regionally in the LPL, it was largely through Gala's team fighting. You know, when they would fall behind against top, you could always rely on Gala to crush in team fights. And can you rely on that with the Tristana pick here early against Caitlyn? And we're going to find out if it's going to be Karma or Lux. I'm expecting it to be an aggressive pick and really just try to slam it home.
And this is a brave thing to do for T1 because Gumayusi has not had the tournament of his life. Like a lot of people saying he played better in the LCK than he has been playing at MSI. Gala and Ming, on the other hand, having a very strong tournament, especially around those team fights.
I will say though, Guma I think has really stepped it up. Another option is Morgana, which would be really old school, but into Nautilus it's so good. And I think it actually fits so well. I'm glad I got the time to actually jump in there and say it because this to me is the throwback, but this makes so much sense in the draft because I was looking across, you know, Galio taunt, the Nautilus ultimate is so easy to actually land a successful Black Shield on. This is going to be really, really exciting because we just never see it anymore. It's almost always Caitlyn Lux, Caitlyn Karma. Morgana can be very, very hit or miss, but this is an extremely dominant lane 2v2. You want to have Oner playing around that bot side, trying to protect them. Wei and Xiaohu, you already know, are going to be trying to get down there, get Gala going, because in an isolated 2v2, you can expect T1 to blast them.
I'm just excited that we are getting a very expected clash of styles. RNG throughout the LPL was not known for their early game dominance, but their mid to late game, I mean, we've demonstrated it throughout the tournament, how intelligent they play the map, how efficient they can be in terms of maximizing their farm, controlling vision, and playing around objectives. You contrast that to T1, who are the early game monsters. They average ridiculous early game gold leads, and they will decimate you in lane and will snowball the game to victory. The big question for today is which star will come out on top? Which one will be able to secure the MSI title? And already in game one, we have both teams with their identities on full display, ready to secure game one.
And it's not just a battle for the pride of the individual teams. T1, of course, looking for their third MSI title. RNG trying to do the same. It is a battle for the pride of your region. LCK have been down in the dirt for the last 4 years. Only Damwon have been able to dominate against China. And that LPL consistent victory after consistent victory may end today. T1 versus RNG. Game 1 of MSI 2022 Finals. Let's get on to the Rift.
And starting things off, I'm just so curious to see how Oner is going to be able to perform on this Nocturne because they didn't have any additional dive picks to actually kind of be a dive buddy with him. Like, sure, Morgana theoretically can kind of like flash in there, but generally speaking for support, you're not really going to do that unless you're like super fed.
Guma looking for the jump across the wall, but he's taunted, he's rooted, and with the explosive charge down, tick, 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 Gala gets first blood.
That Beautiful. Is not the start you want if you are T1, though. You're drafting for 2v2 dominance. You're drafting to smash Gala here in this 2v2, and Tristana starts with first blood. He's even going to get the base off. He's starting double longsword and 4 bots. How are you going to push him out of lane?
This is exactly what RNG did against EG. They did it on the top side, but
Predator invade.
RNG with a strong level 1. They were able to take advantage of the Predator Galio. They were able to punish Gumayusi. He didn't want to commit any of the summoners, and I think it was wise because RNG, they know how to punish that. I think when we look back to their EG series, the moment that Impact lost his flash, what did they do? They dived him at level 4. They dived him at level 6, and they know exactly how to punish. So while he does hold on to his summoners, we'll see how much it affects the lane.
Well, and I'm really curious, did he actually skill E, right? Did he try to skill E and like try to get to the wall and jump over? I wonder if that's why he was actually holding onto the flash. Because if that's the case, that can really hurt. He did skill Q, so he didn't actually do it. So yeah, he just held on to it. They're going to be playing for lane, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. Trist, you know, with double longswords and the additional potions here, still, you know, Keria can help with the shove, and we'll see how effective they can be. If you can land the binding, it's easy to follow it up with the trap. That's the kind of combination you're looking for. It's such a long amount of CC. And Gala, as a result, is going to have to play Cleanse.
And as we already talked about, coming into this matchup, expectations were that T1 would have that early game lead. When we look at their averages throughout the tournament, T1 typically dominate in the early game. We see them having ridiculous gold leads. You can see 85% of first heralds, 100% of first heralds.
Unreal.
They average 4.5 kills at 14 minutes, and they average a 3.5k gold lead. It is ridiculous, and RNG is already going toe-to-toe.
We're looking for Faker in the mid lane. Tor's going to come out here. Faker able to get underneath this tower, should be safe. Just a bit of chip damage down onto the bird in the mid lane.
And the reason why I wanted to bring attention to T1's early game dominance was because this is actually a style that RNG is very used to. Domestically, Top eSports was a team that would be hyper-aggressive in the early game, look for early advantages, yet RNG was actually able to weather the storm.
Yeah, absolutely, right? And largely it was about their team fighting. And as we said, it was about Gala in the later stages, playing around him having success in that 5v5 stage later on. Ming able to clear out the traps that Guma did put down there. That was a really late rocket jump. I think he was trying to buffer it. Maybe he was expecting he might get hit, so buffering the rocket jump. But early on in the game, it's a very long cooldown, so we'll see if they can look to punish that whatsoever. Keria also is playing Comet and Ignite, so again, very lane-focused here for T1. So it is problematic if they can't get an advantage. You really do want to try to chip out the Trist, push them in, and then harass them under tower and start farming plates. Because when you're playing these double-range lanes with Caitlyn, it's not just about the 2v2, it's about winning the 2v2, then getting out on the map and being able to farm plates across the map. You have to play from ahead against something like the Tristana.
Xiaohu stopped it in his Justice Punch. Fake able to slide forward, put some damage down in the mid lane. Zeus looking for some damage onto Bin in the top lane, not going to be able to get too much more. And as you say, that it wasn't just the fact that Gala got gold out of the first kill, it's the fact that he was able to get all of these pots. Because although Gumayusi and Keria have the pushing lane, they have the pressure in this lane, Gala can just stand back, accept that he's going to be 10, 15, 20 CS down, but not lose too much because he's always able to be topped up on health.
The credit to them, though, they've had the push, right? They've already gotten their first plate here 4 minutes in, so that is really, really good. You know, Oner was shadowing them to make sure that they could get the crash. Now going to be out on the map farming. Early Lucidity boots, I always love on Nocturne. You hit 6, you sometimes just take the second blue buff, and then you have Lucidity boots, you have the extra CDR, you use that first ult. If you can get a kill there, rinse and repeat, back to farming. Every time ulti's up, you look to be proactive. So it's going to be more pressure, I feel like, on Wei to try to disrupt that pattern and try to force them to fight more often than they want. And this is something we actually saw T1 do incredibly well against G2 yesterday when G2 picked Nocturne. It was just Oner, you know, on the other side of the matchup, constantly forcing fights where Jankos was forced to respond, but he didn't really want to. He wants to be waiting for the ultimate. He wants to be playing around that cooldown. So I'm interested to see if Wei can do the same thing to him.
New options for Oner in the early game. Only level 4 right now, as you say, just farming up towards that level 6 on his way towards his Wolf Camp. First reset comes out of Gumayusi and Keria. They'll get the Noon Quiver and a bit of extra AP for Keria. The boots obviously does help for Keria if he wants to roam around the map. It's not something we've seen him do too often. Sometimes he will go towards the mid lane, but often he just likes to stay down in the bottom lane, especially when you have a pushing lane like this.
Xiaohu consistently looking for opportunities to roam. Moving into the river, a very powerful tool for a mid laner is the Fog of War. We often like to talk about how roaming can generate a lot of pressure, but by just moving into fog, you immediately have to, oh, he could be coming top, he could be coming bot, and Xiaohu demonstrating that pressure and T1 having to respect it.
Well, look at how much vision they have in the topside river. You know, RNG have covered that with multiple pink wards. They have the scuttle. They have another ward as well over on Raptors. That is to threaten that move from Xiaohu up towards topside, and that is kind of hinting that that is the side of the map that they are looking to play towards. But Xiaohu, Predator popped here. A Lucidity boot rush for him as well. But of course it is spotted out by that pink ward, so Keria and Gumayusi able to play this safe. Still, every time that they can get that little relief of pressure, it's going to be a good thing here for Gala and Ming.
And I do want to bring up as well, yesterday when we saw T1 play against the Galio, we saw Caps being heavily punished in the laning phase. A large part of that was because of the Tristana that he was playing into, but also he was kind of forced to play off the timings of his bot lane, whereas now we're actually seeing RNG play to the timings of Xiaohu. He will push out the wave when he sees an opportunity, and then Wei will group up with him, and then they'll look to control vision. And Azael, you're highlighting it, and our observers are showcasing it for us now. Look at how dark the map is right now, contrast to the amount of control RNG have. And again, I want to bring us back to that final versus top esports. The ways in which they would mitigate that pressure, try and weather that storm of early aggression, was by utilizing map control, good vision, and just doing what they could to prevent a dominant early game team from snowballing and dominating the early game.
Stun's gonna land, there's the hook follow-up, no Dark Shield in time for Keria. Second kill of the game over to Gala. Gumayusi able to retreat.
Nicely done. Wei with so much patience there, they get the kill. And perfect follow-up from Ming, flashing in. There's actually 0 wards. 1 ward now placed on the map by T1, that pink ward that just got dropped by Oner topside. Yep. They literally had no wards on the entire map, which was pretty shocking to see. You know, multiple sweepers, the trinkets were all in cooldowns, no one had a pink down, so didn't have any tracking on Wei, and he just had the patience there, finds a kill, and now they're going to be relieving that pressure again, getting a good reset here for Gala. And thankfully for RNG, he again comes away with a kill. That's exactly where he wanted.
Excellent early game control from RNG, and just a really good window of opportunity there, recognizing that the wave state was in a good spot. Wei could sneak in, and Wei is a player that I think, when we also think holistically, is a very young player, right? When we think about the average age, obviously we talk a lot about how young the talent is
Only
from
19
T1.
for Wei.
But you also look at the number of international games. It is very few. Of course, Xiaohu and Ming dwarf in terms of international games, but Wei actually only starting very recently for the actual lineup of RNG.
Yeah, he only started with them, at the start of 2021. Ben coming in at the start of 2022. Gala has only been there since summer 2020. The three young players on RNG have not been around for that long. It's 19, 19, and 21 for Gala. So it's a lot of young talent between these two organizations.
Yeah, you just have to look at T1 side as well. No one but Faker was playing professionally when Faker won last won an international title, right? Like, all of these guys started in 2018 or later. You saw very young players, and we'll have to see how they're able to match up into RNG, who have had a strong early game start.
Absolutely, and I think it really speaks to the scouting, from these teams, right? T1, everyone except for Keria came up through the T1 organization, through their academy teams and kind of scouting teams, amateur teams, and have been, such incredible talents for this roster. So many young players on the T1 side. It's kind of the grandpa and the four kids here, Faker and the rest of the squad. It's the Boomer and the Zoomers.
It's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
There you go, guys. Master Splinter in the mid lane. But I mean, they're just playing it so mechanically impressively across this whole year that, Faker showcased yesterday that he can dominate sometimes in the 1v1, but he doesn't always have to. He often does play more of a facilitating role because his side lanes are so commonly ahead, are so commonly winning. He isn't forced to take risks.
For the moment, he hasn't actually been forced to move out of his lane too much either. 20 CS up over Xiaohu on this Galio. Of course, T1 had this pressure in the bottom lane, and we thought from the draft they were likely to play around it. RNG have matched that well. Wei has been in the right position. Obviously, First Blood helped with that. But T1 still at the 10-minute mark, about 1,000 gold ahead.
It's sort of what we would expect, because when we talked about it, T1 have drafted 3 winning lanes. They're pushing top, pushing mid, and pushing bot, and you can see that CS discrepancy really starting to build across all 3 lanes. On top of that, T1 have 2 plates in the top lane. They have 1 plate in mid lane. They have 3 plates in bot lane. Yep. They are leveraging their early strength in order to secure these plates. And sure, they aren't finding these kills, but at the end of the day, their composition is doing what it is designed to do, which is win lane, and RNG are just doing their best, as we've repeatedly discussed, to try and weather that storm, mitigate that pressure, and limit T1's impact in the early game.
And my big question on if T1 can begin to snowball that is, how effective is the first Nocturne ultimate going to be, right? He has 3 pieces of CDR, so he actually has been able to purchase that up before having to use his first ult, which always does feel really nice. Caulfield's Kindle Gem as well as the CDR boots. But he is level 7. He wants to get out there on the map, try to get active. If you can get that first kill, start to convert, some of these early tower plates that you've gotten into something more, into a full first tower, you can really extend that advantage, because I don't think that Nocturne wants to play from parity here. He doesn't have a dive buddy. You have to be more active in the early stages, because I do think that the job in the 5v5 is going to be really difficult for Oner.
How on earth are you going to be able to get on a backline when Tristana can just jump away when you have a Galio in front of you? And you have been just wrecking through your backline. We did see Ace in the hole used by Gumayusi just for some harass down towards that bottom side. Ming has left Gala alone for a while as RNG trying to set up around this first dragon. They made a few forays into the T1 jungle, got a bit of vision down. You can see, once again, T1 with 3 wards on the map. 2 in the bot lane bushes, 1 in the top lane. I don't think they're going to contest this dragon, as RNG will take it.
And RNG is one of the only teams that has really been prioritizing dragons, at this event. It has been a much more fast-paced event. The average game time, 29-16, so very few teams are even getting to Soul. But RNG, throughout the Rumble stage, has had a 70% first dragon rate. T1 only 40%. They are focusing much more on Herald in general, but this game, RNG able to get both Herald and that first dragon, so going to be feeling really good about that, as the gold gap is closing significantly, and I do favor RNG's comp quite a bit from even states.
And I'm looking at the gold right now. You can see that Gala is in fact ahead of his lane counterpart, even with the CS discrepancy, by and large, thanks to the 2 kills and the plates. RNG leveraging this fog of war. We already talked about Xiaohu and how he utilizes it. Now the RNG bot side of the map doing the same thing.
Good flash away from Keria. Ming tried to find a flash hook. Keria flashes himself. Could have gone for the black shield, but of course then the Nautilus will chase you and he can look for Gumayusi with a depth charge.
And again, want to bring your attention to the minimap. Notice this control that RNG have. They see the Nocturne is hovering around. They have this ward, they have this ward. They also have these 2 control wards in the top river. It's just complete river dominance from the side of RNG, and they're just keeping an eye on what Nocturne is doing. You talked about it, Azael. How impactful will that first Nocturne ultimate be? RNG is not giving him a chance to use it.
Absolutely. I mean, they're just crushing in the vision game right now. T1 is getting choked out as far as that goes. They're not really having many eyes on this. Ben just using his ult really to clear out the wave as Zeus was threatening the dive and chipping this down. He does have TP, so he's just going to use the ult, clear out the wave, base, come back, And yes, Bin is getting pressured, but I have to say he's done a very good job of keeping the farm even. And this matchup, especially when Gwen goes Ghost, gets really scary later on for Jayce, because in these extended lanes, especially once you get towards Riftmaker, there is the potential to get chased down.
And it's partly the knock-on effect of knowing where Oner is.
Reasonable position themselves by having a gold lead. It's just a matter of, can they execute this composition against what RNG have drafted and into the style that RNG typically likes to play.
And obviously, as T1 start to take these tier 1 towers, it does open up the map more for them. Nocturne very good at getting into a side lane, very quickly bolstering his teammates and trying to get those 2v1 plays in that top or bottom lane.
And I want to very quickly, once again, draw your attention to the minimap. Look at these supports, their own timings.
Ming missed
Ming
that
will be spotted out, but Keria doing the exact same thing. This vision war is really going to be decided by two of the best supports in the world.
This is huge, though, because Faker has TP, and they know Wei and Ming are in this bush. So unless they're backing, they know exactly where they are. Keria's here, Oner's here, Faker can TP in.
This is a very good ward. Faker is in a position to TP right now. He's just making his way back towards the mid lane. RNG, this trap, they don't know that they are the ones.
Yeah, they have unleashed TP right now. I think that's maybe what they were waiting for, because the TP ward is actually now available just across. Yeah, they're going to go.
Depth charge comes out. There's the Black Shield as well. The hook goes wide. Oner coming in with the ultimate as well. And there's the TP by Faker. T1, they laid the bait. They set the trap, and RNG walked unsuspecting into the gaping maw of T1. Xiaohu here to join. Double taunt. Faker able to dodge to the side of it. Wei very low. Doesn't want the resets. He's going to be able to get one. Zeus on the back line. Forced out by Bin. He will fall as well. Gumayusi now joins the fray. It is a 2-for-2 in the top lane.
This is really good for RNG, though, because Gala is alone in the bottom lane. He could potentially take this first tower right now. This would be the first time they had lost first tower. We'll see if he can even win the race. He lost his minions, so it's going to be really close between them, but it looks like T1 will still actually get it and maintain the 100% first tower rate, just barely. But I love the setup from T1, recognizing not only that they could actually lay this trap, but waiting until it was post 14 minutes so Faker could join not from the tower, but from the lane ward. It was really, really intelligent, very well orchestrated. But RNG able to fight their way out of it. Xiaohu getting up there with the ulti. Bin's ult came off cooldown barely at the end, so he could win out against Zeus as well.
And I think what's great for T1 in that situation too is that they didn't have to commit. It was very situational based on whether or not RNG chose to try and spring that trap, which they did. They committed to try and killing Zeus, rather, and then the moment that they did, that was when T1 responded. They had Caitlyn coming down in lane, and we highlighted the ward. The fact that Ming didn't actually catch it there.
That's
the positioning.
disgusting.
Ming doing everything right.
It's just barely.
Ming literally doing everything that he's supposed to do.
Except
not quite, unfortunately, not quite catching that ward. And T1 then, notice here, so Faker, he's just catching this mid-wave, not giving anything away.
Such a good bait.
Then the moment that the engage comes through, the moment that RNG overstep in the lane and the ultimate comes through, that's when the TP strikes.
Yeah, but Bin was such a problem here. You know, even though he didn't start the fight with the ulti, was able to really buy a lot of time there. Now there's a TP flank here coming in from Xiaohu. Remember, tier 1's down.
Yeah, Zeus has no tower here to defend him. This should be an easy enough kill for the RNG top laner and mid laner. There's the taunt. No flash coming out from Zeus. He'll save that one for another day. Bin with his second kill of the game.
They hand that one over to Bin, and T1 is going to cross-map it on the top side of the map with a Herald. So good use of the TP from Xiaohu in order to punish well, I guess the towerless Zeus in that position. His team was on the top side of the map. He ends up getting caught.
And it's going to be hard now because Bin actually just got back-to-back kills, right? He is going to be going, you know, more for the split push build. He's got his first dagger, going to be working towards that Nashor's. So, you know, will be looking really strong in the 1v1, and Xiaohu's going to continue playing towards him. RNG have been great with the vision, so if they can continue maintaining vision control in the sides, allow them to push this up. They've already grabbed their second dragon. It's going to be Ocean Soul, which is so deadly on someone like a Gwen in a 1v1 against a Jayce. You have to kind of poke down this champion before you can threaten any sort of all-in.
Oh, Faker looked for the slide, but the dash away by Bin. He's having a game of his life right now. Has been a little bit disappointing at times during MSI. Zeus, probably the best top laner in the tournament, but here, Bin is really showing up on the final stage.
He certainly is. It takes me back to his performance on Suning when they made that run towards the World Finals where they were stopped by Damwon.
I still remember those barrels, Vedius.
Yes.
Still remember those
you should also remember his Fiora, where he actually got a pentakill in the World Finals as well, and I believe that was the first penta we've ever had in a Finals too. Like, he seems to really step up when the games matter, and I also think back to his LPL Finals, where he also had a very solid performance. And so, yes, his inconsistency is something that has been criticized about him and a potential weak point, but when when it matters, he seems to definitely step up.
Yeah.
And I would say most of his inconsistent games at MSI were in the first couple games, right? You know, he had some more risky games where he was kind of playing, you know, the Ignite Gwen style, died a couple times. He had obviously the Camille game that a lot of people were criticizing, but even had an interview right after that where he wanted to play more conservative, wanted to play for the team, make sure he wasn't getting in any sort of a disadvantage. And every game he's played Gwen after that interview, he played Exhaust or he played Ghost, right? He has played more respectful to his opponents. He hasn't always just been flipping the lane in low health situations, and he's trusting that, hey, we are going to find these guaranteed kills, we're going to find these perfect setups, and so far it has been working for them in this one.
And of course, Ghost scales so well when it comes to later game side laning, because you can just chase down Zeus and you can Ghost in, Xiaohu can come in with the ultimate as well. It becomes very hard for Zeus to actually win out that 1v1 in the side lane.
Now, of course, we do talk a lot about how we do favor RNG's comp the later this game goes, and the one caveat to that is Faker's Azir. Late game.
Oh, Keria.
Oh, that sucks. At least it wasn't a stopwatch, but that still sucks.
Yeah, very unfortunate there. I wonder if that was the classic. Normally I have items. Normally I have my wards on this button.
I think so.
And then I didn't realize that when I completed the item, they swapped places.
Yep, exactly.
And so like it wouldn't surprise me. Like it's a very common thing. Does happen from time to time. We've all done it. Come on. I chat. I see you spamming your cake W's. It happens to the best. Okay, it happens to the best. And I
you know what it is though?
Tell me.
It's a bit of a surprise for Keria. Didn't expect to be golden, you know? It's got surprise. Don't forget to grab your exclusive Scare Prize Prime Gaming emote so you can strut. And when you flash in and turn, fight.
Or Zonya's in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I think in this case, he surprised himself.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And those are the biggest surprises. You know? You can't tickle yourself, but you can surprise yourself.
Well, the dragon's spawning in about 2 minutes' time, so you can see that both teams kind of posturing around the bottom river, trying to, once again, that vision battle constantly happening between the two teams. Right now, RNG do have that control ward advantage as they've just reset, and now they're pathing towards the bot side of the map.
And I was really curious to see what build Keria would have gone for, you know, if he was going to do Zonya's Rush. This allows him to be a bit of a pseudo frontline and a bit of a dive buddy alongside Oner, because you can go in there with that Zonya's. But a lot of the support Morganas do also just go, like you see Moonstone, Mandate, you can go a lot of the different support options. So I think this one makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Deathcap Rush, that's a brave choice. They're like, you know, 30 minutes in, you don't have your item yet, but they're looking for a pick on Ming here.
Soul Shackle, Root's going to land, but Ming can just buffer out the Q and escape. Rift Herald did come down in the bot lane. Tower will fall as well. Dragon up in a minute and a half.
Once again, though, going to draw your attention to the minimap. Notice they have pressure in mid, and they also have pressure towards the bot side. So they leverage the pressure in mid to move into the jungle, get some control, look for a bit of a pick, and even if that doesn't result in any kills, they guaranteed that tower in the bot lane. So T1 leveraging their map control in order to gain some more advantages, and now they've extended the gold lead to about 2.5k.
And I'm really curious to see, is RNG going to scrap for this third dragon, or are they just going to go top and take a free tier 1? You know, try to trade for gold elsewhere. They obviously do not have to push for Soul, and Soul has not been a big, really discussion point at MSI because the games have been so fast, as I was saying earlier. But I do think that they're in a pretty decent position. You know, the second items are coming through for a number of their players, Gumayusi and Gala at parity, both of them hitting those 2 item spikes here pretty early. And I think they're pretty much ready to go. The Locket's going to be very effective as well.
I very much agree. This, to me, is where T1 is their strongest, and I think we're seeing them now move on the map much more aggressively, right? They're already grouping up. They're not going to bother leveraging the TPs that they have with Faker and Zeus. They're going to bring their 5-man down, and they're going to threaten RNG. And again, our observers are highlighting the vision control that they have, and T1 have done a great job of setting up the map. They have all of this deep vision, they have this control, and they also have this line of traps.
Binding onto Ming.
To look for a pick, and T1 leveraging their comp very well. And it's exactly what we talked about. When you get to the dragon first, your zone control and ability to choke out these spaces is very strong.
Yeah, now they're going to have to try to come from creative angles here, but some of the traps are expiring, so RNG is going to be now let in, and Bin is in the pit.
Wei trying to flank here, gets onto Faker. There's the stun being going onto Faker as well. Faker with a slide back, but already one's down. Oner has fallen. Bin looking for the damage onto Faker on the back line. Faker dodges out from the Heartbreaker with a stopwatch of his own, but it's double for Bin. Gumayusi and Zeus have to run for the wins. Faker down. Gala. Goomba stomping forward.
And this is going to mean so much for RNG. They get the kills, they get the dragon. Both junglers are dead. I don't think they're going to flip at Baron in this case. They're just so far ahead. I feel game state-wise, Gala untouched, and he just shredded through Oner. Oner not even able to get off his stopwatch in that one. I'm not sure if he bought it up after the death or not, but he went down in a hurry, and if it wasn't for a really good Zhonya's from Faker, he was actually going to get soloed up by Wei. You know, Wei drew so much pressure in the back end of this fight.
And look at the way in which RNG attacks. They had 3 different angles that they were coming from. The top of the river, the Dragon Pit, and underneath the river. And then T1 was forced back into this choke point with which RNG sprung. Now the TP.
Zeus looking for Bin, just in the 1v1. The TP coming in behind him. Bin's winning this one, though. 5-0-2. Gwen can do no wrong.
Bin is popping off. Xiaohu TP's in just to say, good job, buddy. Nice hustle out there. Bin grabs another one. T1 trying to get something back, trying to take control in that side lane. You know, Jayce at best would have got a trade kill there because he would have gone down to Xiaohu. The other 4 members now playing up towards this Baron, trying to threaten this, but there's not really much threat of them being able to rush this down in the 5v4. I think would be way too dangerous. But if they are left alone and you can get something like a kill in the side lane, Azir can shred through objectives, can kill that Baron very quickly. So RNG are going to have to try to reclaim some vision here and always keep eyes on it.
Zeus does have the TP as well. RNG, I think they're not going to overcommit here. I think that if they wanted to play for anything, that top tower is looking very juicy for them. They could look to try and reclaim some control back around the Baron area. Again, I'm going to keep bringing this minimap up because I think it's really important to highlight. Notice before, when Zeus died once again in the side lane, it's largely thanks to this control that RNG have in the map. And credit to T1, they're making the correct plays. They're setting up their own vision control and leveraging their pressure in terms of the cross. But it's not really netting them any advantages. They couldn't force the Baron in that situation. And now Keria could be in danger.
Gala jumps across the wall. Keria does have flash. Will use it to escape. Didn't want any more of that damage from RNG. When we saw the gold, Gala 1,300 gold ahead of Gumayusi right now.
To be honest, it's starting to feel like T1 are getting closer to where they're just going to flip the Baron.
Yeah.
I think they've lost control of this game, and they realize the only way they can fight is with RNG walking into them, right? So they're spending so much time in this Baron area, setting up the trap line, you know, trying to force RNG in to fight them. But RNG's not going to take the bait. You know, they're close to having IE on Gala. He's the richest person in the game. You're at Dragon Soul point here. So unless T1 are willing to absolutely just flip at an objective, they're not going to get that fight that they want from RNG.
And we think back to that last Dragon fight, RNG literally walked at them.
Yeah.
Like the Banshees sitting on top of Xiaohu, the Merc treads on the Nautilus, they don't care about the Morgana binding. They don't care about whatever CC you have, which is very limited in its entirety. Xiaohu is more than happy to proc his Predator and just sprint straight at you to force these engages. And so T1 is going to find it harder and harder to get an advantageous fight.
And I just loved how RNG were coming from multiple angles, right?
Yeah.
Ming in through mid lane, you know, the rest of the team coming in through that side brush. We had Wei wrapping around behind on Faker, attacking multiple sides.
And getting that stun onto Faker was huge as well because it meant he couldn't slide the rest of the team away. He couldn't put that Emperor's Divide down and disengage the fight for T1. RNG have finally found parity in terms of gold, only 200 gold between these two teams. Ocean Soul available to them in a minute and a half's time. And although T1, they have scaling, they have damage on their side. You know, Faker is on the Azir very strong as the game goes on. Right now, it feels like Bin is too big, Gala is too big, and Xiaohu is just so good at disrupting and finding these pockets of vision.
And we talked about how it felt good for T1 with their 2-item spikes. You now look across to RNG and you see that Infinity Edge being completed on Gala and you're like, now I feel like RNG is stronger. Now I feel like it's RNG that's kind of reaching that point. And you talk so much about the Gwen earlier on, Azael. You look at those items, you press tab, and you see that she's almost completed her 3rd one, and you're like,
3 is game over for Jayce in a side lane, unless you're on like 6. So.
Yeah, it's a scary situation to find yourself in. And again, the gold is similar, but it's a little deceptive to the actual strength of RNG right now.
Absolutely. But at the same time, you know, it is a high lethality comp. There's lots of squishy members on both sides. If T1 can find that perfect engage, if they can catch Gala out, burst them down, you know, there's always that opportunity. But the fact that Gumayusi is having to go towards LDR, his IE is going to be very, very delayed. Gala doesn't have to do that. It's all squishy members. If you can lock anyone on T1 down for about 3 seconds, Gala will kill them. Like, that's about all he's going to need. So it is very, very important that T1 have that perfect beginning to the fight, or it's going to go sideways fast.
T1 waited for the Cerildas on Zeus, then TP'd in. Ming trying to hook himself away here. No real follow-up apart from that binding. How do you get any closer to the Nautilus if he does manage to use that dredge line? Xiaohu and Bin on the flank. Oner spots them. Zeus and Keria there as well. Mid lane prio for T1. Wei and Ming coming in from the side. RNG are on vision. Xiaohu with the taunt, catches Oner. There's the Everfrost as well. Oner pots the stopwatch. T1 on the retreat, and Oner left to his lonesome, has to flash. Ming flashes forward, looks for the binding, but he can't get the damage down. Good depth charge onto the back line. Keria going in with the soul. Shackleman just out of range. Shot Blast does so much work in these fights, but the Ocean Soul, a possibility for RNG. They're looking to burst it. T1 do not have vision in the pit, and the Ocean Soul is gone. RNG secure it. T1 last legs, last dregs of hope perhaps for you if you can find this fight, but they can't. They back off and they go towards the Baron.
They're going to go towards Baron. There's pings on it, but RNG know as well. They're going to head straight out there. T1 have just not much hope left in this game, so they're going to try to flip at Baron here. I think it's a pretty good attempt because RNG are behind the play. We'll see if they can actually burst it down in time.
Jayce, Azir, Caitlyn will burn through this in a millisecond. Xiaohu on the way.
Can they get out?
Bin here as well. Wei going in. Heartbreaker available for Wei. Oner smites early. Wei secures it. The shuffle gets two of them back, but already Oner's down. Xiaohu pops a stopwatch, and Bin pops Keria. Gumayusi has to flash. Faker flashes out of the pit as well. Bin still on the chase. Baron secured for RNG. 2 kills as well. And RNG will be able to get out, force T1 away.
Beautiful response from RNG. They get themselves the Soul, they get themselves the Baron, and they're looking to secure game 1 of this best of 5.
They are just playing so cleanly. They left T1 with so few options, you know, pushing them out. Oner just can't ever ult in. They're going to try to get a pick on a Bin here.
Bin has needlework here. Could look for the 2v1 knockback. Fake looking for the damage with a needlework. Put them in the trash. It's his namesake, and he puts T1 right in the garbage where they belong.
It's not even close. Bin makes it look easy. The 1v2 top lane ends higher health than he started. RNG winning out on all sides. Have played a near perfect game 1 here in full control, it feels like, start to finish from the level 1, punishing Gumayusi. And they're in such a prime position now to close this one out. They need to just continue playing mistake-free League of Legends, but they just have given T1 almost no opportunities.
Just beautiful play from RNG overall, and I think that like it really started in the draft. We talked a lot about how T1 needed to dominate this early game. They needed to find these advantages. At this point in the game, it's desperation. You understand why the Baron is having
health. He has to smite early.
And we talked about it, right? He had to smite early, and that meant that there was a prime opportunity for the steal to come through from Wei. Yes, it does mean that both Wei and Xiaohu lose their life, but the mission is accomplished. The Baron is secured. It ends up being a 2-for-2, and T1 are forced to retreat.
It's just so hard. I mean, Gala and Ming weren't even there, and T1 were losing out on that fight. It's almost a death cap now, complete for Bin. Goes home, you know, builds up the Cosmic Drive. Full BT now done for Gala as well. They have the Ocean Soul on top. This one is looking pretty much all wrapped up here for T1. And they're going to have to start thinking about the second game. You know, I think that the Nocturne really just did not fit with what the rest of the composition was trying to do whatsoever. It felt like they were super focused on getting a denial pick and lost track of what it would mean for their composition. And RNG have just not really made any mistakes. They didn't give T1 any advantages in those early stages. They just played such a bulletproof laning phase.
You do wonder how much would have changed if Gumayusi wasn't caught out at the level 1, whether they could have had more pressure down towards that bottom side. T1 have shown us stronger early games throughout the course of MSI, and of course in the LCK. They need to find a way back throughout this series. Right now, this game is looking done and dusted. T1 defending at their inhibitor towers. Baron still up for 17 seconds. RNG have made 5,500 gold off this buff.
RNG just taking their time. The Elder is going to be spawning in about 2.5 minutes, so I imagine they're going to keep the pressure up with the Baron that they still have. Well, it is about to wear off. The problem for RNG right now is that they're only playing to one lane, but Zeus, he doesn't have flash.
There's a 3-level advantage as well for Bin. Zeus, no flash. Bin on the chase. Ghost continuing to tick needlework dodge, but Bin 10-0-2 on the Gwen.
An exquisite for Poe. Flash in.
Looking for the damage onto Oner. He ults Ming to try and get away. Xiaohu's still on the chase. Guardian Angel available for Oner. He will tick down, but the Guardian Angel is not popped. Still, RNG now know they're at a 5v3 advantage in the mid lane as they push in. Looking for at least the inhibitor. Wei is catching the second wave in the bottom lane, so they will look for 2.
Yeah, RNG just playing it really calm, cool, and collected. Pushing in bot, gonna look for this second inhibitor tower here. Oner with no ult, Zeus still dead. T1 not really much hope here of contesting this. Maybe when Zeus respawns, they can try to go for one last big play. It has to be, you feel like, some sort of huge ultimate from Faker to set it up for them to have any chance. But RNG just going to back up, spend all the gold that they just collected here, and set up for Elder.
And of course, it's important to remember that T1 are known for dropping games in series.
Yep.
It is not uncharacteristic for them to even lose that very first game of their best of threes during the regular season, and they did drop a game in their finals as well. So I would definitely not count them out of this series, but I think that RNG came in with a very strong showing. After T1 absolutely dominated, and there were a few question marks considering the closeness of RNG versus EG, many touted T1 as the clear favorites coming into this best of 5, and I think RNG have come in with a very convincing game 1, showcasing we're here to play, we're here to compete, and we're here to secure ourselves our 3rd title.
Hook gonna go in, they're looking for the damage here already. RNG just ripping a T1 into pieces in the river painted with T1's blood. Gala dashing forward, a double for Bin, make it 3. He's looking for more as he continues to chase T1 down. Oner forced out, TP coming in. Bin looking for it here, but instead it will be stolen away by Wei. RNG ace T1, only Xiaohu falls, and the Nexus will be forfeit.
RNG making it look easy here in game number 1. T1 going to have a lot of questions to answer in the draft. Coming up in game number 2, the Jayce pick not really working in the Gwen, the Nocturne not really fitting in, and RNG are cruising.
RNG weathered the early game storm that was T1 and take game 1 in the MSI Finals.
A good game overall, I think. We saw some strengths from both sides. I think T1 continue to demonstrate their lane prowess and their ability to leverage their strong laners, but they couldn't really convert it. And I don't think that there was any particular mechanical execution error from T1. I think it was largely just down to the draft. I think that by going for a Jayce Nocturne first rotation, you already made it very difficult for yourself in terms of finding a comp that all wants to do the same thing. And then while I think they did have a strong Caitlyn Morgana, going for a different direction with the jungle, something like a Lee Sin, would have given you the ability to create a split map, give you more opportunities to try and better snowball that side of the lane. And I think that, yeah, their comp was a little disjointed, but even with that, they demonstrated their strong mechanical prowess and ability to generate leads in the early game. Moving into game 2, I just expect their draft to very much make changes.
I mean, one of the big things I also think you have to highlight is how good RNG were with the vision control in the early stages, right? You know, they knew T1 had to snowball this game. It was such a huge investment in early pink wards. Everyone was buying them. It felt like every single base for RNG. They were dominating the vision game, it felt like, in the first 10-15 minutes. And T1 just weren't really able to find those plays. It was so late in the game that we actually saw Oner's first ulti. And even in that play, it ended up being a pretty even trade.
Yeah, struggle for T1 in the early game. We'll see if they, in the mid game, so we'll see if they can bounce back. As we go to a break, let's check in on T1.